Hello and welcome back to the Championship Lowdown podcast. I am once again joined by Ollie. Welcome back to the channel, Ollie.
Thank you very much, mate.
And we are back with our weekly episode of our Championship preview of, I believe, what week are we on now? Week 17?
Yeah,
week 18, actually. So even further down the line. Crazy stuff that we're this far into the season already. But we will get straight into the action and we will start where the whole week starts of the Championship. On Friday night, we have Ipswich versus Oxford United. Obviously, Oxford coming off their draw against Norwich with a last gasp equaliser at Carrow Road, midweek, 95th minute from Krastev. And Ipswich, obviously, Ollie, as you're very aware, coming off a 2-0 win away to Hull City with Chuba Akpom finding the net for the first time for Ipswich this season. So what do we think about this Friday night matchup?
Yeah, Ipswich, I've said a couple of weeks ago, they're looking fairly ominous at the moment. They've actually finally started to click into gear at the Championship since they got relegated last season. Took them a fair while, but they've climbing up that table, currently sat in 6th. And I was looking earlier, and the real key thing for me at the moment is Ipswich away form. They're going away from home, letting teams just come at them, and they're just picking them apart. You know, looking at their away results recently, the last 5, they've won 2-0 away at Hull City, they've won 4-1 away at Swansea, and they've won 4-1 away at QPR. But sandwiched in between those games are 2 results at Portman Road with draws. So it's like they kind of got a little bit of sand in the gears down at Portman Road, really. It's like, are they knowing how to play and soak up that low block? They're not really clicking into gear when it comes to the home games. But when they're away, they're just clinical. I thought they controlled the game on Tuesday night against Hull City. Certainly after the second half when they made a couple of substitutions and they brought Philogene on. I just thought they really showed their quality, controlled the game a little bit. I thought Marcelino Nunes was fantastic in that game. And the other centre midfielder player, I can never remember his name. He reminds me of Kante. Reminds me of a young Kante, but he's very, very controlling, very physical. I was reading on Twitter during the week. I will continue to call it Twitter. It doesn't sit right when we've been called X. That is the first name on the team sheet, that young lad. And I can see why. He just dominates that midfield battle, and he certainly controlled the game against us, against our boys. And looking at the XG of that game, they were at 1.9, nearly 1.9. And we were 0.4, which to say, we scored a lot of goals this season. We never really looked like we were going to get into that game. And then once Ipswich scored, it looked like that result was only going to go one way. So I fear for Oxford tonight. They've got a chance. They've shown character in games this season. Obviously, none less than they did during the midweek game, scoring in the 95th minute. But they're going to need to play out of their skin to match up against McKenna's boys tonight. Because I really fear for the Championship when Ipswich are playing in this form.
I mean, I said it when we played them, obviously, not saying we were amazing, but they were really, really good. They showed the signs of a team that we sort of expected going into this season with Ipswich. This is a team that I think basically all of us on this podcast had to pretty much steamroll this division. And it didn't really click. And now, as you said, they're finally finding it. Away, though, it's interesting, as you said, the best form so far has come from away from home. They're not really, away from home, they're sat 10th in the league. And then, you look at home form, albeit they are 8th. It's like recently it's sort of flipped from what started as a good home results and bad away results. It's now gone to good away results and not amazing at home. So, yeah, I think it's not great for Oxford. You look at them, they've just scraped a point away at the most out of form, out of shape team in the entire division in a game where, they probably should have lost. If you look at the stats, Norwich absolutely dominated that game and they were very, very lucky to come out of it with a point. So for me, it's going to be a tough one, as you said. Kieran McKenna's got them firing. I think people, when they said he should be sacked or something like that, I thought it was stupid. Like, this is a manager who's very, very talented, and it was never going to end in that way. I feel like it would have to be a disaster to see him depart this club. I think, he had interest from clubs like Chelsea for a reason. He's a very, very talented manager, and I think they just needed that time to sort of get the new boys embedded in the system and get it all clicking, and now it finally has done. You say for Oxford, it seems like it could be scary, scary stuff having to face this Ipswich side, especially at home as well. The Ipswich will bring a decent amount of fans, I'm sure. So I think, they're going to feel the pressure after another poor result against a team that they're basically battling with, Ollie, in that relegation battle.
Yeah, definitely. It was Matasiwa, by the way, the players.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought it was Matasiwa.
Yeah. Just looking at the quality of that Ipswich side again, just ever so slightly, it's, the way that they bomb forward, and when they've got they leave the overlap with Leif Davison coming into the style of play, and I just feel like I'm not sure how Oxford can battle that tonight. I'm not sure what quality they've got to be able to fight up and give themselves a real opportunity and a chance to get anything from this game. I just think it's a real clash tonight where it's going to be quality against a team who are really, really scrapping. Don't get me wrong. Oxford can try and put some systems together to try and quell that Ipswich steamrolling attack, if you like, but I just don't feel like they're going to be able to do much against this Ipswich side tonight. There's just too much in there with Jack Clark. Hurst is playing well. McAtee is decent. Nunes, like I say, against Hull City, just dominated. And they're just so hard to break down. And I just fail to see how Oxford are going to be able to do anything about that tonight.
Yeah, it's a very, very good football team, and we'd all be very surprised if Oxford come out and get a result in any shape or form. Really, if this isn't an Ipswich win now, I'd be very, very surprised based on how the trajectory of both teams at the minute. Oxford seems to be looking very much over their shoulders down, and Ipswich are chasing the pack at the top. So, I think we'd all be a bit shocked if this did end in a win for Oxford. But against Championships, stranger things have happened. Believe me, we've seen it this season many, many times.
Absolutely. Just going back to your point on McKenna, when people were talking about him getting sacked earlier on the season, and you just summed it up in what you just said there. The competitive nature of the Championship is summed up by what McKenna's done so far. Struggling to find his feet with it, struggling to get back to the style of the Championship. And now that he is really finding his feet, he's proving that he can really, mix with the best in this division. And I think they'll be right up there at the end of the season.
100%. We will move on, though, to our next game, which is Leicester versus Sheffield United. And again, Leicester coming off an absolute drubbing from Southampton, 3-0 at St Mary's on Tuesday, whereas Sheffield United, probably for the first time in this podcast's history, we can say are coming into a game on good form. Because they come into this with back-to-back 3-0 wins, one at Hillsborough, obviously, in the big Steel City derby. And then on Wednesday, they absolutely demolished Portsmouth at Bramall Lane. To believe now they have climbed out of the relegation zone and Oxford have dropped in their place. And obviously, beating Portsmouth as well was a big result because that is a team that's in trouble. But Leicester, again, every time we think, Ollie, that they're clicking into gear like Ipswich, like Southampton seem to be doing at the minute, they come back with a result like this, and all of a sudden you start questioning, how good this team really is.
Yeah, they're a strange side, aren't they? They're a real strange side. And going back home against the King Power, they've proved. We spoke about it in the last podcast that they don't win there, but at the same time they don't lose. So this game's probably got draw written all over it, given Sheffield United's sort of uprising in form. They're playing pretty well now. They've got a couple of wins under their belt. Pressure's easing under Wilder a little bit. I appreciate they're still only a point outside the relegation zone, but you'd imagine them to pull away from there with the quality that they've got in that side. But like you say, with Leicester, they can't just put a string of games together, and with the quality that they've got in their ranks, you would expect them to be doing a lot better than what they are so far this season. It's a real difficult one to call this game because Sheffield United are going to be confident, like you say, on the back of 2-3-0 victories, going into a team who don't have the best confidence when they're playing at home. If Sheffield United score early on in this game, it's going to be really interesting to see how Leicester fight back in this one. I could foresee them really throwing the cat amongst the pigeons in Sheffield United team.
Leicester, they've only lost once at home, as you said. So, they don't tend to lose much. But again, Sheffield United, they're three wins away, 2 wins at home. So they're better off playing away anyway, if you look at them stats. But Leicester, I'm just not sure. That Southampton game was a battering, to put it politely. Like, Southampton dominated every aspect of that game and absolutely deserved the result that they got. And Sheffield United, they've been in really, really good form. Obviously, winning a derby game is never easy. Winning a derby game by 3 goals is more or less, not very common at all nowadays, especially not in this division. The amount of times I've said with derby games, it's always like a 1-goal game and it's always very, very tight. It was not at all. And then they go to Portsmouth and, that's 2 teams in that relegation battle they've beaten back-to-back weeks, which sort of shows that their intent, they're not going to be stuck around in this relegation battle for long, which obviously puts the scares in teams just above the relegation zone when teams like Sheffield United will just pull away eventually, I think. I'd be very surprised if they end up back in that drop zone for a while now, if again this season, to be honest. Leicester, I mean, I said it before the break. I think Cifuentes saved his job by getting that win away at Norwich, which I wasn't sure about because obviously, they barely got away with it. And obviously Norwich were in Norwich at the time. We're losing every game. It's not exactly the most impressive result. I think the pressure will start to pile up on him if they don't improve soon. They're sat 15th in the Championship. This is a team that we've seen in recent years have dominated this division. The last time they were in it, they win this division. So see them in 15th, albeit they're only 3 points off the playoffs, which is mental how close that is, by the way. You drop all the way down to 17th, and there's 5 points between 17th and 6th. It just shows the ridiculous nature of this division and how much it can change in a very, very quick blink of an eye. But I really could see Sheffield United getting a result in this one. I do believe with the form that they're in, the confidence will be high, and Leicester can't imagine they'll have any confidence after getting absolutely battered away at St Mary's.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think Sheffield United are going to go there tonight, like I said, full of confidence, and it wouldn't surprise me if they do put that cat amongst the pigeons and get a result here. And it will put the pressure on Cifuentes. Like we say, they got that result just before the international break, which will have eased it. And we're talking about potentially giving him time until Christmas. But I'll tell you something, if they lose there tonight at the King Power, there's going to be some serious conversations had. And like we said, I appreciate they are in 15th, and like you said, they are only a couple of points outside the playoffs. But there's a real chance that they could get dragged away from that, especially with the teams outside of the playoffs who are putting on runs of form at the moment. We talk about the likes of Ipswich, Derby are in a decent run of form at the moment. I appreciate that they lost last week, but Southampton are getting there. Even QPR are turning it around again, where they're getting results again. So they need to start keeping in touch with these other teams. And Wrexham are another one to chuck in that mix. These teams are getting a decent run of form, and if Leicester aren't careful, and when I say they're not careful, they need to start winning these home games against teams they should be winning against. Sheffield United probably chuck them in the mix, given how they've started this season. There's a real chance that they could get dragged away from the playoffs and a potential tilt at the Premier League again this season, because it's not looking likely if they don't turn it around and start winning these home games. I foresee Sheffield United getting a result tonight. I really do. I just feel like they've developed a little bit of confidence. Like you said, no derby's ever easy to win. Not sure about the celebrations afterwards, man, but still, they're entitled to celebrate how they see fit. But to make sure that they've just dragged themselves away out the relegation zone by a point, to celebrate like they've just won the playoff final at Hillsborough, a little bit of an interesting one. Obviously Bamford getting off the mark during midweek as well. They're going to be going there with confidence. They're going to be going there with confidence this weekend, and I really foresee them maybe even nicking a win.
Wouldn't be surprised at all. I really wouldn't. I just don't see with the Leicester team and the run that they're in. They're so inconsistent. If they get another loss here, the pressure really piles on Cifuentes, as you said, and you start to think maybe he's not the guy to lead you back to the Premier League, which I didn't think he was at the beginning of the season. In all honesty, I said the same about him, as I put him in the same category as Sellers, in that sort of doesn't really fit the team. I'm not saying he's not a Championship manager, because he is. I just don't think he's a Championship manager who should be competing for league titles, in my opinion, or even playoffs for this Leicester team. So, would I be surprised if Sheffield United get a result? Absolutely not. I think away from home they're doing quite well. I think what they should have a real big chance here to walk into the King Power and get a massive result for their season and put them on the right course back towards more happy season rather than the doom and gloom that we've sort of seen from them so far this year. Next up, we'll, unfortunately for you, or fortunately, I don't know how you want to speak about it, we're going to Stoke versus Hull. Obviously, we've spoken about Hull coming off their 2-0 loss to Ipswich, which ended, a pretty, a bit of a mare run of form now. They're on 3 losses in the last 4, I believe you've got. So your good run sort of hit a bit of a wall at the minute. Stoke, however, bounced back from a 2-game losing streak with an absolute demolition job of Charlton. 3 quick goals in the first half, and it was more than enough. By the way, I will have to preface, because how on earth did they score 2 of them goals against Charlton? I saw Thomas with 2 crosses, and they've just gone in.
He's done it a couple of times this season, hasn't he? Where they've gone straight in.
But the goalkeeping is terrible. Kaminsky's got to have a serious look at himself, because they should never, ever be going in from the angle. I mean, I looked at the shot map, and I wasn't watching it. I looked at the shot map, and I was like, what? How's he scored from there? I watched the video, and I was like, oh, dearie me. But yeah, Stoke come into it after a big win at home against Charlton, which sits them in 2nd in the league, Ollie. So with Hull now down 11th and on a bad run of form, I can't imagine you're all too confident tonight.
I am concerned about this one. We look like we've just fallen off the face of the cliff, and let's be honest. Elliot will mention the XG game and it catching up with us, and I think he's probably right in this instance. We didn't look. We were never competing against Ipswich. Let's be fair. I think Ipswich we're going to get that goal and then we're going to run away with the game, like we've already touched upon. Fair enough. Ipswich are a good side. I predicted us to lose that game anyway, so it wasn't a massive surprise to me. Just going back ever so slightly to last weekend was the real lack of character from us, and it's just the way that we were leading in the game against QPR twice, and you can't throw them chances away. You've got to capitalise, and it comes down to game management and experience. And what I will say is this weekend we're hoping to have Lundstram, Crooks and McBurney back, so that will give us that championship experience. So if let's say, and it is a big if, we do go ahead in this game, which isn't beyond the realms of possibility. We've gone through a few tarts this season and really troubled them and come away from some places with results. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility of us going ahead in this game, but it's about how we manage the game afterwards. We can't just keep attacking and leaving ourselves wide open to attacks, especially against somebody like Stoke at the 3-6-5 who are playing bloody well. And like you've just touched upon, Sorba Thomas, everything's just going his way. Everything is going his way. You know, he's absolutely on fire. Manhoff as well, who's absolutely flying for them. I'm just concerned this weekend because if we struggle to break this Stoke side down, which a lot of teams do struggle to break Stoke down because they're so compact and they're so defensively sound, we're not going to come away with anything from that 3-6-5. And I fully expect, even with the likes of Crooks, Lundstram and McBurney back in that side, I fully expect Stoke to come away with a result here.
I mean, you sort of said it with XG catching up, but I think obviously injuries have also caught up to you. You know, we spoke a few times about saying how you were still getting the results despite big key players missing. You know, you're losing McBurney, for example, is a huge loss. As much as Destan has been good, he's not quite that level of striker where he's going to score you goals every week, which is what you need in this division if you want to be competitive. And, you know, McBurney is that sort of guy. So having him back will be huge for you this weekend because that obviously changes a lot. You know, that connection with Ryan Giles we've seen to be brilliant this year so far when it's been allowed to happen. As you said with Stoke, obviously, I said it pre-season. I said if anyone was going to unlock the potential of a Stoke team, of so many years we said, brilliant team, never ever hit the level that we expect, finish about 15th every year. If anyone's going to get the best out of these Stoke players, it'll be Mark Robbins, and he is doing that. You know, losing to Coventry 1-0, very much excusable. Leicester, it's a disappointing result, but again, it's still an okay team. Then you go to Charlton after a 2-game losing streak, and you could be like, oh God, misery. But now we're going to come out at home 3-0 win, right back on the right track. And then they got you, Sheffield United, Ipswich, and Swansea in the next 4. So it's not an easy run of games until they get to Swansea, of course, which will be an easy game. But I think I see a tough world where Hull get anything better than a draw out of this game. Obviously, Stoke are either free scoring or they don't score at all, it seems to be, with them at the minute. They seem to score loads of goals or no goals. But with your defence and how it's been quite leaky at times and quite wasteful at times, I think this Stoke team with the talent it has up front, with Sorba Thomas, with Millie Manhoff, with Divin Mabama, there's so much talent in the Stoke attack to break down your defence, and I think you're going to struggle big time to keep the Stoke team out. And when they do score, it seems to be the floodgates open.
That's it, yeah. And I think you look at our you mentioned defence being leaky. I think that's a big understatement. We've got the second worst defence in the league. We've conceded 29 goals in the league this season so far, and it's. I think you're right. If Stoke do score early, they're going to get a roll on, and who knows what score this could be if that happens. I mean, hopefully it won't for our sake. But one thing I will say is we can go there with a little bit of pressure off because no one's going to be expecting us to win there. They're just not. And if we can go there and play with our attacking style and really defend from the front, if we like, because that's the only way we can defend is by outscoring Stoke. That's the only way we're going to go there and get anything is if we go there and just try and outscore them. But it's going to be difficult given that Stoke have only conceded 12 goals this season. How do we do it? How do we unlock that Stoke defence? It's got to be. We need to try something slightly different. We can't just bomb forward. We can't just attack and leave ourselves open because we'll come away with an absolute drubbing. Giles has got to tighten up. defensively, going forward, he's sound, absolutely brilliant. But defensively, he's lacking. And Coyle on the other side, same story. Being really, really good going forward this season, but prone to just stepping out of position, being a little bit hesitant when it comes to attacking that winger. He did it against Philogene. As soon as Philogene came on, he just left himself with so much space. He left Philogene with so much space, all the time in the world to float across him for Nunes to just nod in. I appreciate Panda's probably to blame a little bit there as well by not controlling his box, not shouting for the ball. But our two right back and left back, they concern me defensively. It leaves Hughes and Ajayi and O'Regan with far too much to do. And obviously with the African Cup of Nations coming up, Ajayi's going to be losing. We're going to be losing Ajayi there as well. So real concerns for me when it comes to our defence. That's what's losing us games. We're just conceding too many goals. We're scoring a lot, but we're just not doing what I'm saying about outscoring the other teams. It's just not happening. So McBurney coming back to big plus, of course it is. Gelhart's still playing really, really well. He would obviously put his hand up in spite of all those injuries. So hopefully his form can continue alongside McBurney and he can come back and sort of carry on as he started. But yeah, I fear for us this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you mentioned about Giles because it was my worry about him basically the entire time he's played in this division was he was unbelievable going forward, but obviously defensively was always a concern. Basically every team he played for has been the same sort of story, unbelievable attacking asset, but can get shaky, especially in like a back four. It's very, very dangerous to play a fullback like that in a very defensive system. So for Hull, as you said, you go into the team with the best defensive record in the entire division. It's going to be difficult, and with a team that has the second worst defensive record in yourselves, and Stoke, doing pretty well in front of goal, all things considered this season, I think it's going to be a tough evening for you because I can't see you scoring many goals on the Stoke defence. I really can't, especially if you, for example, McBurney doesn't start or whatever. Certain people aren't in the squad due to rotational reasons. So yeah, I struggle to see you getting a result. If I'm being brutally honest, I'd be surprised if you can come out of this in Stoke as well with a result. I really personally can't see anything but a Stoke win in this one. But
I am not offended by that, James. I'm not offended by that.
I'll save your misery and I'll move on. We'll go to Coventry versus Charlton. Obviously, Coventry coming off probably the biggest win, it's fair to say, of their season. 4-2 win away at the Riverside, a very impressive result. And again, it's another game where they're scoring for absolute fun. We thought maybe there was a turnaround on the cards when, Middlesbrough bring this one back. All of a sudden, 2-2, bit shaky. But Liam Kitchen and Ellis Sims made sure that there was no worries to be had. And Coventry made it, I believe, 4 wins on the spin now. And a very, very good run of form, it's safe to say. I believe the last 10, they've won 9 or something stupid like that. Charlton, however, on the complete opposite trajectory. A team that started the season so well. In the last 3 games, they've conceded 9, scored 1, and lost all 3, including a 3-0 loss to Stoke midweek and a 5-1 loss to Southampton on the weekend just gone. So it's safe to say, Ollie, I think this one's rather straightforward as to what we think might happen.
Yeah. Charlton have just fallen away, haven't they? 3 defeats in a row now. They've started so difficult to break down, and they're just, there's this Championship catching up with them. It's them Saturday Tuesdays, isn't it? It's so hard to navigate, especially when you're coming up against such competitive teams like this. It's ridiculous, isn't it? The division's so difficult to navigate. Coventry, what do you say about them, man? There's only so many superlatives you can give them, isn't there? I mean, they're knocking on 50 goals so far this season, coming into the 18th game, which is just, you give them the title now. It's madness, isn't it? I mean, who is the competition now? Let's be realistic. I mean, Ipswich are going to be up there. Southampton have started to put on a decent run of form. Stoke, you'd expect them to be round knocking on the door, but Coventry are blowing this division away. Even when the likes of, say again,
13 points clear of Ipswich, Coventry are.
Madness. And even when the likes of Thomas Asante and Haji Wright scoring, you've got Ellis Sims scoring, Weldies. They're an unbelievable side. They've got quality in every single position of the pitch. They are, like I said, there's only so many superlatives you can give them, and you've just got to give them credit. They lose to Wrexham, and like you say, they get dragged back into a game by Middlesbrough, who, let's be fair, Middlesbrough are a good side. They're up there for a reason. But to then show that character and come away from the Riverside, scoring 4 goals at the Riverside as well, hardly any teams have gone there and even won. So to come away scoring 4 and coming away with the 3 points is massive for them. They're amazing. They're just an amazing side. I don't see where they stop, and it'll be another comfortable win for me this weekend against Charlton.
As you said, 10 points clear of their nearest rival in Stoke, 13 points clear of arguably what you think would be the biggest challenger in Ipswich. I don't see it slowing down either. What I will say is they have scored more than triple the goals that Swansea have scored this season, which is really hilarious. More than triple, because we've scored 15 and they've scored 47 in the same amount of games. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Just every game, you think they can't score that amount of goals again, and they do every time. Middlesbrough, your biggest rivals, and you stick 4 past them in their own stadium. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And if they don't win the league, someone's gone horribly wrong, because this team does not letting up. As I said, the results they're on. They've lost one. They've only not won one game since the 27th of September, and that was that Wrexham game. They've won every game since then. Otherwise, I mean, it's just ridiculous. As far as Charlton go, I think, as you said, this Championship catching up with them. They were so hard to break down in the early weeks of the season because teams didn't really know what they were getting. But the more and more they play, the more and more the film that these teams get on Charlton, and they realise their weaknesses and how to expose them. And all of a sudden, they've hit a bit of a wall. Now they're down in 16th, would you believe it, after being in the playoffs just a couple of weeks ago. So again, shows you how quick this league can change. Out of your favour if you're not careful. And obviously, going to Coventry, they then got Portsmouth at home, then Middlesbrough, Birmingham after that. Safe to say it's not a good run again. On a bad run already, it's not what you want to see. But I just don't see a world where Coventry don't win this game, or basically every game they're playing for the rest of the year. Like, it's just every game I'm going to be like, yeah, Coventry will win, because the Ipswich away next, but Ipswich are better away from home anyway. So you still think you probably see them win there. And apart from that, they've got Southampton and then Ipswich again before the new year. But apart from that, they're probably going to win the rest of them. I'm dreading Boxing Day when we've got them away from home, because that's going to be torture.
Merry Christmas.
I know, tell me about it. That's one way to bring the Christmas spirit right down. But yeah, I don't know. As you said, I've run out of words for this Coventry team. I just can't. I just don't know how it keeps continuing in the form that they are.
And it's mad, isn't it? Because we've obviously just been told today that it's a year since Frank Lampard took over today. So they're going to be celebrating that over the weekend with a nice, comfortable win over Charlton, you'd expect. Charlton, I mean, like we just touched upon them ever so slightly again. It's like they were so difficult to break down. And then coming up against this weekend, I appreciate it. Southampton have hit a decent run of form the last 4 games. I think they've won Southampton. Now, Charlton have conceded 8 goals in the last 2 games. After a side that there was very rarely goals in their games, regardless of whether they were for Charlton or against them. There just didn't seem to be many goals in their game. They didn't score a lot, but they didn't concede a lot either. And that was the sort of way Charlton had started the season. But to have conceded 8 in the last 2, and then they're coming up against Coventry, who've scored 19 more than anybody else in the division, it's pretty ominous, isn't it?
It's not what you want to see, is it? When you want a bit of a defensive mishap playing the best scoring team in the division by a country mile, it's really not what you want to see. Yeah, look, especially in Coventry as well, I dread to think. This could be a cricket score if Charlton aren't careful. Like, really, really scary stuff.
They just need to try and tighten it back up and do the things they were doing before these last 2 games, if they can really do that. The difficulty is you're coming up against the best team in the division. It's going to be so bloody tough for them to do so.
I'd be amazed, put it that way. I know I'd be at a few games, but this one I would really be amazed if this isn't quite a bad day for Charlton, to be honest.
Be interested to stick a couple of quid on Charlton to get the away win. Might be a rich man by the weekend.
One of Elliot's 6-2 predictions might come true for him. We'll move on though. You've just mentioned them, Ollie. Southampton away at the Den this weekend against Millwall. Obviously, we've spoken about Southampton in the run that they're in. 4 wins on the spin, including that win at Leicester. Millwall finally ended a bit of a bad run, no wins in 4, but they end that with albeit a 1-0 win at home to Sheffield Wednesday isn't the most impressive, but it's 3 points nonetheless. But Southampton have been superb in their last few games. Ollie, scoring 8 in their last 2, 11 in their last 3. So safe to say for Millwall, for a team that's been struggling at the minute and seems to be falling away from that playoff pitch, falling down, into 4th now and on a bad run, where the team's tightening up behind them, especially Southampton being one of them. You have to imagine the pressure's really on Millwall here if they want to keep in that playoff spot.
It is, yeah, but I know it's only a 1-0 win against Sheffield Wednesday, but they've shown character in games this season of Sheffield Wednesday, and they've gone and troubled a couple of teams in obviously above them, because everybody's above them, but I'm talking like nearer the top. And they've shown that determination that they can really go and trouble some teams. And Millwall to come away with that after a bad run of form, to come away with a decent 1-0 win and get another 3 points under their belt, still in the top four. We talk about the competitive nature of this division. It just, everybody beats everybody. So the fact that they've given themselves that opportunity to still be around the playoffs coming into December is fantastic for Millwall, really. And the top four were minus 4 goal difference, which is fantastic, isn't it? I just think that's Millwall all over. It's just Millwall all over. They need to be the typical Millwall horrible side to play against. You know, physical, nasty. Try and stop Southampton playing their game, which is going to be a tough thing to do at the moment because they're on fire. I mentioned in the pod a couple of weeks ago that I've got a feeling that they're going to put on a little bit of a role now, Southampton, and the rest of the league are going to be looking at them alongside of Ipswich and sort of looking at their Premier League quality they've got in their ranks and really seeing them starting to tick these games off. I think Howard Bellis has been fantastic for Southampton recently. I don't know. They're looking pretty ominous to me. I fancy them to go and get a result again this weekend, to be fair.
Same. Confidence is a big thing, right? It's huge because it's proven with the Southampton team how important it can be, because this is a team that could not hit the back of the net for love nor money and will still. You know, as I said, when we played them away at St Mary's, they had about 3 XG, 2 open goals, and they still didn't score a goal. Now, all of a sudden, these players who couldn't score for nothing in the opening sort of 10 weeks of the season are scoring for fun. You know, Adam Armstrong, for example, was terrible, in front of goal for a while. And then all of a sudden, under Thunder Ecker, they just seem like a new team. Finn Azaz has really kicked into gear after a pretty rough start to the year. Ryan Manning's picked up his form. Tom Fellows got amongst the assists the other day for the second time this entire season. So this whole team has just been unlocked, and it's like a revelation under Thunder Ecker. And I'm really not an advocate for giving the interim the job, but I feel like he's earned it now. If they go and win again away at the Den, I just don't see how you can not give him the job. Like, as I said, it's always risky because, good runs of form happen and, it could fall off. But to me, I just don't see how you can't give them the job. They've been superb in the last 4 games. You really cannot fault them since Will still departed. They've been perfect, played 4-1-4 and scored a decent amount of goals in that spell. So this is the Southampton that I expected going into the year, a free scoring team that just batter teams about and, should be really comfortable in the playoffs. And, they're now only 3 points outside. I doubt they can get in because of how far down they are in the league, so in 13th. But, a couple more results like that, Ollie, and you're looking at a very serious contender for even automatic promotion.
Yeah, give it time. I think they'll keep going. And you're right in what you said. Thunder Ecker's done an amazing job to come in for a side who were struggling, they were really underperforming in this division, to come in and take over and get 4 wins on the bounce, potentially going in and to get 5 on the spin in this division. It's a massive accolade for him, and he's done wonders. So he would deserve the job. I mean, to slap Leicester off the park, who come down with them last season. Oh, we've spoke about how not with it they are this season, Leicester. But I mean, Southampton haven't been with it so far this season either. But to play them off the park the way they did was just mad. And I think they'll continue that run of form. They're looking pretty good, and like you said, that he really does deserve a tilt at this job because, well, why not? They're playing pretty well, and I can see that continuing.
Yeah, my one big issue with Millwall is as well, they haven't really got that clear-cut goal scorer in this team. I think we came into the season with Mihajlo Ivanovic expecting a 20-plus goal season, and he's sat on 3 goals after 17 matches. So, Femi Aziz is the top scorer on 5. I know if you look at Southampton and say Adam Armstrong's only on 6, but obviously with the way they started, he's basically got all of them goals in the last couple of weeks. I'm sure he will fire on and end up with 20-plus goals this season.
Building.
Whereas Ivanovic, I just hasn't been the player that I expect. He was rumoured with a pretty big move to Wolves in the summer for quite a lot of money. Coming off a season where he scores 13 goals, you think, yeah, okay, this guy's going to really kick on next year and be important for Millwall. But, Femi Aziz been that guy so far. They are sat 4th in the league. So if you look at the league table, they should be massively favoured. But with the run that Southampton are on and Millwall in a bit of a struggle period of their season, I really can only see this going one way. And that's with Southampton making it 5 on the spin and causing a real issue for the teams in that playoff picture.
Yeah, I'd go with that as well. Millwall just don't score enough goals, do they? You've alluded to that already. There's no clear-cut goal scorer, and ultimately they're fourth in the division after 17 games, and they've only scored 19 goals. Coming up against the Southampton side who are free scoring at the moment. So yeah, I see this as a Saints win.
I mean, you've said it before with like stats and stuff, and expected goals, it will catch up with you after an amount of time. And they are sat quite high up in expected goals. So it's I think it's more for Millwall. They're not finishing the chances that they get, because they got 23 expected goals in this league and they only scored 19. So they are actually underperforming what they're expected. So for them, it might actually catch up with them in a good way, and they might start scoring the chances that they get in. You look at Southampton; they are second in the league on expected goals. So it shows you the chances that they've spawned away. Under Will Still, it's ridiculous. But yeah, I think them stats will start to catch up, and both these teams are underperforming what they should be. So we'll see how that plays out at the Den. But unfortunately, we have to move on to my Swansea City, as much as I really don't want to, as per every week, as we travel to the Hawthorns to take on another out-of-form side, really, in West Brom. Obviously, for us, we're coming off a disappointing result again at home against Derby, 2-1 defeat. Just not good enough. Again, player effort, I think, was put into question. Players were booed off in Vito Matos' first game, which is not an ideal start to his tenure, to say the least. West Brom, as much as they got a point at Birmingham, they've only got one win in their last 5 games. So they're also in a bit of a struggle. They're sat 17th, we're sat 19th, so we're very close in the table. I'll let you go first on this one, Ollie, because I feel like I'm just going a 20-minute rant about how rubbish we are, but I'll let you go from a more reasoned perspective of what you think will happen.
To touch upon West Brom first, I think obviously they were leading that game against Birmingham, and I think ultimately they will have been happy with a point in the end, coming away from that result. They need to turn it around pretty quickly under Mason. I think Alex Mowat mentioned it during the week, and it's up to them. It's up to them to start playing and ticking over, and what sort of decent game to try and do that, but Swansea City. And I know that's not what you want to hear, but as well as I do, you're a realist. They're really poor at the moment. New manager bounce should help them. I actually thought they'd win last weekend, ridiculously. But yeah, it's the same old story, really. But Swansea do need to turn it around as well. It's the same for them. West Brom, on the other hand, it's just underachieving for me. They've got quality in them ranks, and Mason's just not got them playing at the moment. I think it's only a matter of time before they do get them ticking properly. But I fancy West Brom this weekend. I fancy them to get that result.
Funnily enough, look, I mean, against Derby in the first half, I was quite impressed because you could see what he was trying to do. We dominated the ball, but there wasn't that. Again, it's what our issue's been all season: is the attacking outlets just haven't been there. We haven't created enough chances. We are bottom of the league, expected goals, bottom of the league on shots, I believe, or something stupid like that. So we don't score many goals, and we've lost 4 games on the spin. 2-1, 4-1, 3-0, and 2-1 is our last 4 results. We've lost them all. Our last win came at home to Norwich in the ends of October. So we've gone the whole month of November so far without winning a game, and I very much think we're going to end November without winning a game either, because, as I said, we show signs against Derby, but for me, my 2 main issues are player effort. Right, I have no problem if you get unlucky in games, and in this Derby game we probably were unlucky at times, but we didn't create enough to go and win it, in my opinion, or even draw it. But effort has to be there. The bare minimum stuff isn't there. They don't look bothered, half of them. I think Galbraith's the only one who looks half-assed at the minute, to be honest. I really do. We're persisting with bad players in the starting 11. I think Omji Sung is nowhere near Championship level. I think Ronaldo's nowhere near Championship level either. Liam Cullen isn't at the level either. There's 3 players there who have direct replacements. Our fans are so against Manuel Benson for some reason, even though he came on and was a great attacking outlet and more or less got the assist. I don't know if it actually registered as an assist, but he put the cross in for Galbraith to get his goal against Derby on Tuesday. Did more than Ronaldo's done basically in 2 years of playing in half an hour, but our fans are still adamant they shouldn't be playing, because he posted on Instagram that he was unhappy about not being subbed on when we subbed on a defender and a defensive midfielder when we were 2-0 down away at Ashton Gate. I think I'd also be fuming if that was me.
Where he's coming from, don't you? Yeah. Sometimes fans just have a scapegoat, though, don't they? That's just what happens with some fans, and as soon as they find a reason, they'll just pile on.
It seems to be with Manuel Benson. Seems to be an easy scapegoat because he's not done a lot in a Swansea ship, but I refuse to believe he's worse than Ronaldo. He's not a worse footballer than Ronaldo. We've seen Benson tear this division to pieces. I think, we've got Josh Key in this team who I almost feel bad for because he's just a bag of nerves. Like, he's just been struggling so much this season. And there isn't really another option. We've got Sam Parker, who's a young player, but again, very, very inexperienced, big risk to put him in at right back in a championship game, especially in the back four with his attacking nature. But for me, it's just all very doom and gloom. And Vita Matos does a huge job. I love the way his post-match interview was brilliant. He summarised everything perfectly. The bare minimum stuff has to be there. They need to be quicker. Buzzwords need to be counter-press. He loves saying that. He said it about 4 times at his press conference. But he's right. We just need to put more pressure on these teams and, create more chances. That is the bottom line. And, I think if it doesn't change, we're in serious, serious trouble of this relegation battle, because I believe we're only a couple of points above the drop now. And we could technically fall in if results don't go our way this weekend. So for me, it's scary, scary times for us, and we've got to be careful against a West Brom team who it should be an opportunity with a bad run of form to finally get ourselves out of this winless rut, because we're yet to beat the teams we've beaten at our point were 24th, 23rd, 22nd, and 21st. Should we have not beaten anyone good this year? And that needs to change, and it needs to change quickly.
Yeah, you just need to sort of develop a little bit of, you mentioned about the effort not being there. You need to develop that hunger and desire in games, don't you? And that's your bread and butter, isn't it, really? And if you can develop that and that characteristic and that backbone, it gives you half a chance in any game, really, because it just does. The look at Sheffield Wednesday, they've been in games all the way through this season, just down to sheer grit and determination, nothing else. So Swansea could maybe do a little bit of that. Like you say, it's an opportunity coming up against the West Brom side who are out of form, not playing particularly well. The systems aren't working for Ryan Mason for whatever reason at the moment. So it could be an opportunity for Swansea. The confidence just not there for me. Like you said, they don't create enough chances, and it wouldn't surprise me West Brom coming away with a 1-0.
I know I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest. I think that's exactly what's going to happen. We're just miserable at the minute, unfortunately. As you said, you want to see me happy. You won't see it for a while if we continue in the form that we've been playing, put it that way, because we are useless at the minute, and it's just painful to see how bad we've been the last couple of weeks. But I'm leaving the sort of sadness pit there with this football club, and we'll get on to the other games of the week. So we'll have a little quick run through of the games that we didn't mention there. So Portsmouth versus Bristol City. Obviously, Bristol City came off. They've only pretty bad run of form, all things considered, losing to Wrexham after battering us at home at Ashton Gate. They go into a game against this Portsmouth side who, again, only won one in their last 5 as well, coming against Millwall. So 2 teams on a very bad run of form, but I think you surely look at Bristol City here as the favourite, with the league position being what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I do, but I fancy Portsmouth to get a win this weekend. There's no real reasoning for that, to be fair. It's just that Bristol City just seem to have hit a wall. And Portsmouth are just such a strange side where you can't really call them. And when they've got an outlet like Murphy who can put him, will the young kid be? I can only remember his name. Devlin. Will he be banned for this weekend? He's got straight red.
He got straight red. Yeah, he will be out for this game.
Yeah, they're gonna struggle for cover there. But yeah, I mean, when you got Murphy cutting in off that left edge, you've got any chance to come away with a result. And I think Fratton Park this weekend. Yeah, I think they might get a result.
I hope you're wrong, because they're one of the very few teams that are actually below us in the league. But Bristol City. Bristol City haven't been convincing. I wouldn't be surprised. They need to bring Fratton Park to what it was last year, and it was a really tough place to go, and a place where they won a lot of their games. They basically stayed up on purely home results. They didn't really have any away wins last year of note. So yeah, I think it could be a tough one for Bristol City going away on the early kick-off to Fratton Park, and Portsmouth could really cause an issue for a team that's falling away from that playoff pitch down to 7th, and with the results. With how close the league is, a few results on the weekend, they lose here, they could fall even further away from that. Middlesbrough versus Derby. Obviously, we spoke about Middlesbrough a lot on not a great run of form. 1 win in their last 5, and obviously coming off a 4-2 loss at home against Coventry. Complete opposite for Derby. They've just beaten us, obviously, on the midweek game 2-1. 4 wins out their last 5. On a really, really good run of form. I believe in the last 7, they've won 6 or something like that. Only losing to Watford on Saturday. So, again, this is going to be a tough ask for Middlesbrough, Ollie, to come and beat this Derby team who have been in a very, very good run of form.
It is, yeah. That was just the concern for me is obviously losing Carlton Morris for Derby. He was a catalyst to their push up the league, to surge up the league, if you like. And it's a real concern coming up against the Middlesbrough side, who obviously losing to Coventry last week at Riverside will want to put it right. I can foresee Middlesbrough getting a result and pushing back into that top two this weekend if Stoke don't get that win against Hull City.
Yeah, I really agree with you, because I mean, obviously I watched Derby on Tuesday. It was not great. You know, the 2 goals come from a badly marked cross where their man's been left free at the back post, and a very bad defensive error again, which was left Salverson with basically an open goal to shoot into. So apart from that, they really didn't cause too much of a threat. When they did get through on goal, it was like Brereton Diaz or Aguiman, and they were just terrible, wasteful, awful in front of goal. So for me, I'd see them struggling here away at Middlesbrough, who are desperate to keep their toes in the top 2 and, you know, not lose touch with Stoke, who could pull 3 points away if they're not careful here. So I could definitely see them getting a result. Norwich versus QPR. Obviously, you know, Norwich with that heartbreaking denial of their first win at Carrow Road this season, thanks to a last-minute goal from Oxford. QPR, 2 wins on the spin now, sort of getting into their run where they, you know, they had a pretty poor run of form, all things considered, where they fell down the league a bit, but up to 12th again now, pushing back on towards that playoff picture. But obviously Norwich, Ollie, in desperate need of a result. This would another opportunity, you have to say, for them to get their first win of the season at Carrow Road.
It is, but I fancy QPR. I just they play some decent stuff, and the way they attack, and they don't know when they're beaten. They did it against us last weekend, where twice losing in the game, twice turning it around, and then eventually winning it. They've got a lot of character. They've got a lot of quality. I really like what Elias Chair does in this division. He's a Championship pro through and through, and he just knows the division. I wouldn't be surprised if QPR come away from Carrow Road with a win and pile that pressure onto Norwich.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Norwich are better on Saturday, but again, you know, you've got to win them games. On Tuesday, you've got to win them games against teams like Oxford, who are your sort of direct rivals in that relegation battle. You just have to come away with 3 points there. The pressure's on. I think they know that. I think Clement knows that. He's got to get this team winning games before the teams above them start pulling away from that relegation battle, because you have to imagine, as we said, Sheffield United will begin to pull away, and that gap might become a bit larger to the safety line. So I could see, as I'm not, QPR I'm still not sure on. I really don't think they're as good as people think they are. I think they're probably one of the more overrated sides in the division. Norwich have to win. Pressure's on. I think it'll be another draw. I wouldn't be surprised. I think QPR will struggle away. A team that's so desperate to win, they're going to, you know, shut up shop and just really try and get 3 points on the board. So it'll be intriguing to see how that one goes. We go back to Hillsborough. Obviously, you know, not a great run for them. 3 losses on the spin, including their big derby loss at home to Sheffield United. Preston, no wins in their last 3, but obviously had 2 wins before that against Swansea, Southampton, and obviously Sheffield United before that again. So 3 out of their last 6 games they've won. So, albeit they've hit a bit of a wall in their last 3, Ollie, you'd still fancy them away at Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah, I think they'll turn it back around again this weekend. They've got too much quality for Sheffield Wednesday, surely. We talk about how the competitive nature of this division. It's so difficult to go on a run of, you know, games where you're getting 4, 5, 6 wins in a row, and hardly any team does it. So for Preston to have lost 3 games in a row in this division is no mean feat. To be, it happens, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's a real tough one, but I think this weekend they turn it back round and they come away from Hillsborough 3 points.
Yeah, I can't see Sheffield Wednesday winning many games. I remember when I said it, and I said they won't win a game for the rest of the year, and they won the game after. But since then, they haven't actually won a game. So since September 20th, they haven't actually won a game. So I might be right.
Go on, say it now. So say it now. They won't win another game, and then they'll win tomorrow.
I said it on our review after they won't win another game, and they lost their next one. So maybe I'm not that much of a jinx, but I don't. As I said, I've looked through their schedule. You know, they've got Preston, Blackburn, Watford, Derby, Ipswich, Hull, Blackburn before the turn of the new year. I struggle to see many wins in there for Sheffield Wednesday, if any. To be honest, I really wouldn't back them against any of them teams. But again, I've said that now, so unlucky, Preston. You've lost on the weekend. So sorry, I can only apologise, Preston fans watching. Please don't try and kill me. But yeah, just that's how I see this one going. A big win for Preston to sort of reignite their form and keep them in touch with the playoff places. And finally, we go to Wrexham, obviously on a very good run of form. That's 4 clean sheets on the bounce for Wrexham now.
Brilliant.
So they're doing really, really well. Obviously they're the only team to beat Coventry as well. So that says a lot about the character of this team. They're up to 10th in the league, only 2 points outside of the playoffs now. They host the Blackburn side, who are impossible to predict. 3 wins in the last 5, but obviously losing to QPR, losing to Derby, it's like I don't know I can't call this Blackburn team. But I think Wrexham should win.
On current form, you'd expect them to win, especially obviously being at Racecourse Ground. They're doing really, really well now. They're really finding their feet. Parkinson's doing a good job, to be fair. He was under pressure at one point, but now he's doing a really good job.
We all wrote him off, didn't we?
We did write him off, yeah. And I think obviously it was a Millwall game after where we said they'll go there. You don't want to be playing Millwall, and they came away with a win. So since then they've turned it around a little bit. So it's down to us that Wrexham have turned it around. So you can thank us, Wrexham fans. If they can keep another clean sheet against Blackburn side, who you've just said you can't call, they'll probably win this game, because you'd expect Wrexham to score. They've got goals in him all over the pitch. Broadhead's starting to score goals again. So I would play it, edge it safe, and I'll predict a 1-0 Wrexham win.
Yeah, I think it'll be tight. Blackburn have been, I said, I just can't call it. I really can't predict Blackburn on any metric this season. They're impossible. Because at one week you think, yeah, they're rubbish, they're going down, and the next week you think, oh my God, they're brilliant. They're just battered someone off the park. I don't know. So impossible to predict, but I think they're going to struggle away at the racecourse, as you said. It's going to be a tough game for Blackburn. Wrexham have been very, very good in the last couple of weeks, and I can see that continuing against the Blackburn side, who just, as I said, just impossible to predict, but on a bit of a bad run in the last 3, and I think it could be a misery compiler from Wrexham to make it 4 games with a pretty poor run, and Wrexham will continue their run of, hopefully for them, 5 clean sheets in a row would be very, very impressive in this division.
Crazy in the Championship. Crazy in the Championship if that happens.
Unheard of, basically, to say 4 5 clean sheets in a row at the minute, especially this season with how it's going. I'd be very, very surprised. But be a very big achievement, and shows that Phil Parkinson maybe is the right man to lead them up the divisions. But that is all that we have for you this week. So obviously we'll be back later in the week with our review episode of all the action as always. But thank you very much to Ollie for joining me, and we will see you all next week.
Pleasure.